All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. Apologies if I have to kind of let some people in here as we go, but we will go ahead and get started. So, for those of you that I've not met yet, or maybe we've not had the pleasure of interacting yet, my name is Gibber. I started out here with the Kachinas as the college recruitment director. However, I've been able to kind of start using some of the other skills and passions that I have and trying to help the association here build some mental performance training and mental toughness in general. So tonight we're going to go over mental performance in the aspect of building team culture, how to implement that in your own teams as players, as well as how to strengthen it if it's already there and once you build upon it. So before we hop into that presentation, I want to talk a little bit about what mental performance is. It's not, some people can get it confused with whether is it mental toughness, is it mental performance, is it mental health? What's the difference between therapy and mental performance coaching? You need to go ask your dad, please. Thank you. I do have a 4-year-old running around, so that might impact some of this as well. So as you guys were able to read through the screen here, we have mental performance, which is the application and development of mental skills, attitudes, perspectives, strategies, and processes that lead to optimal performance, well-being, and personal growth. I hate to read slides, but this is just such a great definition of the way that mental performance should be viewed and how to build upon mental performance. And when it talks about the application and development of mental skills, attitudes, perspectives, strategies, and processes. It really is about practicing, right? You're not going to get better at mental performance if you don't practice it, the same way you're not going to get better at hockey if you're not practicing. And so then mental toughness is sort of a measure of an individual's ability to have a successful mental performance. So getting that resilience and confidence that can predict success in sports, education, and the workplace. So mental toughness is, again, it's a skill. It's a characteristic that can be built upon by using mental performance strategies. And then ultimately at the bottom here, we have mental health, which is a person's condition regarding their psychological and emotional well-being. So these are different things. In the mental health world, I'm also an associate level licensed therapist in the state of Arizona. So, there's a lot of overlapping of skill development, but ultimately mental health and therapy is where you go to that deeper dive of certain aspects of your life and how things are going. Whereas mental performance, it's not surface level, but it's just a little bit more instructive rather than therapy being a little bit more client led. So I wanted to be able to give that overview first, and also just let you guys know that as the mental performance coach for the Kachinas now, I'm really only doing team sessions. So I'm kind of figuring out the best way to hold these seminars and to be able um, to reach all the teams. So I don't do anything individually through the Kachinas, but I do have my own little side gig where I have mental performance students that I'm working with on the side. So I'm very happy to help talk with you about if any of those services might be helpful for you as well. After you kind of get the gist of some of these team sessions, if you feel like there's some individual skills that you need to work on, I'm very happy to talk with you about that and see what we can do. I'm going to monitor the chat as well. So if you have questions that pop up and you'd like to put them in the chat, please feel free to do so. We're going to go ahead and jump right into how to build team culture. Okay, so the Arizona Kachinas mission statement, does anybody know what it is without looking it up? Or would you even know where to look it up if you had to? We might have some 14 Black on here that was able to get this presentation a couple weeks ago. So I hope that you guys might be able to share your skills. So last call, anybody know the Kachina's mission statement? Okay, so we'll talk about why it's important to know your mission statement, and that it's not only that it's not good enough that an association has a mission statement. We also want to talk about the importance of every member of that organization memorizing their mission statement. So just to be accountable and show that I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything that I've not done already. The Kachina's mission statement is to create the opportunity for girls to play to safely play girls hockey at their appropriate age and skill level while developing a lifelong love of the game. So you can see it pop up here on your screen. Create an opportunity for every girl in Arizona to safely play girls hockey at her appropriate age and skill level while developing a lifelong love of the game. So take a screenshot of this, take a picture of it with your phone. This will be important to kind of check back in on in a little bit. I'll give everybody a second to do that. And we'll talk about the importance of this, but this is a great, simple, concise mission statement that's really important and really captures what it means to be a Kachina. All right. The next part is the core values. The Kachinas have a set of core values, and they're put in the acronym of the Kachinas. Does anybody know what the K stands for? Or are there any guesses? Feel free to put those in the chat. Any guesses for what the K stands for? Kindness, that's a good guess, but no. Let's get one or two more guesses. Knowledge. Great job, Denitsa. So the Kachina's core values, the first one is K for knowledge. We're going to go through and do the definitions of these as well. What about the next one? A. It's not a characteristic, it's a place. Any ideas? Arizona, Billy, great work. Letter C. Courage, a great guess, but no. Caring, no. Compassionate. Oh, sorry, Denita. Thanks, Vegas. Competitive, no. What does it mean to be all in all the time? What does it mean to be all in all the time? Confidence, good guess, but no. Commitment, perfect. Commitment is the answer. Good job. Okay, so now the H. The H is a kind of a two-letter or two-word. And what does it mean if commitment is to be all in all the time? What does it mean to go all out all the time? Have fun. That's a good guess. What does it mean to go all out all the time? Great work. Hardworking. So Kachinas, so far we know we have Kachinas value knowledge, we value Arizona, we value commitment, and we value hard work. What's the I? What does it mean to do what's right and respectful? Integrity. Perfect. Okay, and the N is also a phrase. So the definition of N is own your response. So imagine in a game, never give up. That's a good guess. Next shift. There we go. Megan McCormick. Great work. Next shift mentality. So that means that we, why you need to take, all right, I'm opening snacks. Patience. There you go. See you later. You need to ask your dad for things, okay? All right. Next shift mentality. So the A, what do we have for the A? The definition is I just keep wanting to say the word out loud. Do what you say you're going to do. Aggression, that's a good guess. Do what you say you're going to do. Action, that's a good guess. Accountability, Arden, you got it. Accountable. Last one. The definition is team first and we over me mentality. Selfless. Perfect, Jordan. You nailed it. So these are our Kachina's core values. Raise of hands if you knew these by heart, if you knew them already without guessing. You can say me in the chat if you want. Raise your little hands. Anybody that knew all of these core values before jumping on the call tonight? Okay. So we're gonna jump into here about why it's important to memorize these core values in our mission statement. Take a second here to take a screenshot or take a picture of your screen. These are also on the website now, I believe, so something that you can look up as well. But let's take some action here and make sure that we are getting these core values into an easy place where we can access them. So why is it important to memorize our core values? A team's core values or core principles identify how that team chooses to show up every day. The difference between a girl and a woman is that a girl makes decisions out of preference, a woman makes decisions out of principle. What does that mean? The difference between a girl and a woman is that a girl makes decisions out of preference and a woman makes decisions out of principle. Who might want to come on and unmute themselves or talk in the chat? Aubrey, is that you talking?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. What does that mean to you?
So a girl, she's choosing things that she likes, and a woman is choosing things that is right, something that you should do instead of something that you want to do.
Exactly. That's perfect. So so it's really about what using our focus over what we feel, right? Feelings are important, and there's a time and a place to address the way you feel. But when we show up to the rink and we don't feel like giving it our all at practice, or we don't feel like going through the handshake line because we're pissed off at the other team, um, those things are not up for discussion for a woman. A woman is going to take accountability and act by her core principles and behave in a way that's in line with those principles, and not only because they're written out, but because she memorizes them. So how will we show up to the rink every day if we don't memorize our core principles and our mission statement? How will we live every day like a Kachina if we don't memorize what it means? So a person that has not memorized their core principles does not have any. A person that does not memorize their core principles does not have any. So for example, for myself, I have my own acronym that I try to live by for throughout my own life and the decisions I have to make, raising kids, being a wife, being a coach, being a daughter, being a sister, all of these things, an employee, all of these decisions that I have to make daily. And what I get the most out of is having my own core values that helps guide my decisions. So I make mine out of an acronym as well. So mine is out of GIB. There's 2 words for each letter. So GIB is giving and grateful. I have integrity and I'm impactful. And I'm brave and balanced. And so I have those principles for myself, and I also have definitions for those principles so that I know how to behave out of principle rather than preference, excuse me. Any questions or any comments on this before we move on to the next? Okay. So again, these kind of might be a couple of the same ideas. So what does this mean? Memorizing our team values helps you makes decisions out of principle, not out of preference. So examples, I had a tough day at school today. I'm going to coast at practice tonight. Nope, Kachinas are hardworking. They're all out all the time, and they're their best at every moment. Or I'm pissed that I'm not playing. I'm going to pout on the bench. Nope, Kachinas are selfless. We are we over me and team first. So these are the things that when you have these feelings come up, you are able to check yourself and ask yourself if you're living in alignment with with your core values. And you might have individual core values for your team as well. Some coaches do that, which I think is great. But I do think that it's important for us all to be under the same umbrella of the Kachinas and recognizing uh, the values and the mission that our co-founders have put in place for us. What type of legacy would we be carrying on if we didn't honor what they put together for us? So ultimately, your core principles become your team creed. So I'm going to play a couple videos for you, and I'd love to get, again, a little bit of feedback in the chat regarding if you can hear the videos well or not. So let me get this one started first. Make sure our volume is up and everything. All right, yes, give me some feedback if you can hear this, starting it now.
Simply create a creed. A creed is a statement of belief. Now, this may fit more in a team sport, but I think it also could fit inside of a gym or in a training environment to create some energy and create some juice. Because we know if you're juiceful, you're useful. Well, and if you're juiceless, you're useless. So we want to create juice in our program. We want to create energy in our program. We want to have what's called a creed, a statement of belief that is essentially a litany that we can say together before a workout, before a competition, to make sure that we are connected and committed to who we are, our core principles and those definitions. So I'm going to show you two creeds inside the locker room of two of college football's finest programs. You're going to hear their players saying their core principles and then the definitions, tie it together in a litany, creating a creed. And for you to establish a creed, it's very simple. Take your core principles, identify and define them, and then put it together in a creed and have your clients and athletes come together and say that statement of belief, that creed together before they get it going that day. Alongside my family at all times, I challenge my brother, believing in and holding accountable. As I create my own path, I always put the team before myself. I strive for excellence on and off the field. I hold myself to a higher standard. I am a young football player. We are accountable with each other to do what we say we will do. We have the energy and work ethic to be at the highest level. We are mentally and physically tough, at our best every day, overcome all adversity. We are a family, always put the team first. We have integrity to do what's right at all times. We have a confidence, belief, and faith that our process will bring results. We are a band of one-play warriors. We are SMU. How cool is that? Could you imagine if everyone in your organization knew your core principles and the definitions, and you could tie it together in a creed? If you've ever seen the movie The Lone Survivor, the Frogman speech, very similar example of how elite teams will have a creed that they use to pull them together with a common base of principles and behaviors.
So I hope that has the same effect on you guys as it does on myself by watching these. But these fellows, theirs are long. Theirs are even bigger than the Kachinas. And they, if you thought that ours was a lot, and we have a lot of definitions, we got a lot of principles. These boys are doing it, and they are living the message. So I think it's important to see how that can, bring the team together, and again align everybody with what the expectations are. And then again, like Brian Kane, he's a leader in the mental performance world. Like he said, that's the difference between elite teams and teams that are just kind of showing up and behaving willy-nilly as they go along. So I want to give another example here. For those of you that don't know, I was with ASU prior to coming over to the Kachinas. I was with them since their inaugural season in 2016. And toward the end of my time there, I started working on some mental performance skills with them. And so we were able to have them create their core principle definitions and create that into a creed that they said every time before they came in for practices, and then every time before they went out for their game. And so here's this video now. This is their locker room before the game. So these are two great examples of how to kind of make these things your own. So for ASU, they said before they start their creed, they said, in order to get to nationals, and then that leads into their core values. Yale football, I love how at the end they say, we are Yale football. I think those are really powerful statements that kind of either kick the creed off or finish it up really nice. That makes you just feel unified, and you know what your goal is, and you're going out there to execute. So those are some examples of how you guys as teammates can implement creeds and start memorizing your core principles and implementing that into your everyday. Again, this is something that your coaches sure can come and sit down and tell you to do it, or you guys can start taking accountability for your own teams and learning how to do this as well. Oopsie, sorry there. Okay. So talking a little bit about culture myths and mistakes. So these are some of the things that we've spoke on, such as a mission statement hung on the wall is enough to say you have culture. So that's kind of how we started out, and we said if a team that doesn't have or doesn't memorize their core values does not have any core values. A team that doesn't memorize their mission statement has no direction, has no mission. So again, just out here kind of willy-nilly. In reality, a team, players and their staff must breathe life into their mission statement and core values by speaking the words every day, and more importantly, modeling the words every day to give it meaning. So this is even when it comes to holding teammates accountable. So if a teammate shows up and maybe they're having a bad day at school, they had a bad day at school, or a tough time with family, and you can see that they're not giving it their all, and you can go up to them and offer them that helping hand where you can validate the way they feel and understand that days are tough, and not every day you're going to show up with a mentally tough attitude, but that you have the choice to do that, and that you, their teammate, are going to be there to help keep them accountable. And using these phrases, using the definitions, the core values themselves, really speaking them daily, and so that they become second nature, that we are always comparing ourselves to how we are living the message. So then once we memorize our mission statement and core values, the hard part is over, right? So again, you might be looking at the definitions and it might seem like it's hard to memorize. And a memorization tip that I can give you is identifying everything with a part of your body. So starting at the top is knowledge, K for knowledge, A for Arizona for your ears, C for commitment, H is your hips, like going all the way up and down your body to name things in order can help you kind of give that little bit of that physical action to help with the memorization. But that's not the hard part, gals. The hard part is living it, right? So keeping your team motivated to live the message is the hardest part. Saying the creed before practices and games will keep the culture expectations fresh in your mind. Talking with players, coaches, when below the line behavior is exhibited on the team, and specifically citing the value that is being violated, will hold the team to principles, not preferences. So when we're talking about below the line behavior, we talk about our principles as the line, right? So our line of principles, it's kachinas written across it. And above the line behavior is when we are taking care of Arizona. We're volunteering for Skating for Layton. We're engaging in the community. When we're hardworking, we show up to the gym, and even if we're not feeling it and we're not really ready, maybe we had 2 other practices that day for other sports, we're still going to show up and we're still going to be hardworking. So those are above the line behaviors. Below the line behaviors is showing up and saying, or before practice, it's like, well, nobody's going to know that I had McDonald's before I came to practice, so I'm just going to get some McDonald's. That's just that's what I'm going to do. Maybe not getting the playing time that you want, and acting out on the bench or pouting. Those are the below the line behaviors. And so that's when you find a way to talk with teammates and talk with coaching staff about bringing these things to their attention. Hey, are you living in line with our principles? And I want you to keep me accountable for my principles too. And it's not always going to be easy, but it's something that once you get started on, it's going to be hard to stop, because you guys will constantly be talking about your core principles, and eventually your actions become automatic. So it's going to be hard for you to live below the line because of how hard you guys have been practicing your your core values. A couple few common culture killers, which I always like to talk about. Again, these are opportunities to be able to confront teammates, or better yet, confront yourself. Ask yourself if you are engaging in any of these culture killer behaviors. The first one is just abbreviated as BD or BCD. Bad body language, blaming, complaining, and getting defensive. Um, when you have bad body language, you're bringing negative energy, right? So, like Brian said, if you're juiceful, you're useful. If you're juiceless, you're useless. When you blame others, you're transferring accountability. So, again, not in line with our principles of taking accountability for our own actions. When you complain, you're the victim, not the victor. And so that means that you're making excuses for why these things are happening to you instead of seeing adversity as your advantage and an opportunity for you to grow. And when you get defensive, you're not coachable, right? So we're not improving. That's part of our principles, is that we value knowledge on and off the ice. And if you get defensive about your teammates coming up to assist you with your living in line with your principles, or your coaching staff helping you with something on the ice, then you're not living in line with what it means to be Kachinas. The next one is the me over we mentality. So of course that just means that you value the team more over yourself. So the correct way to say it is we over me when we're talking about empowering our group. If you're behaving with a me over we mentality, you are not considering your team as a whole, but only yourself as an individual. So there's a great story about Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Tim Tebow. He used to go into his coach's Urban Meyer, he used to go into his office before his practices, and he would say, "Hey, coach, who do we need to build up today?" And so essentially, he's going in there, instead of going in to talk to the coach about what can I do to get better? How am I doing? Tell me this, tell me that. Or complaining, I'm not getting this playing time. I'm not getting this attention, whatever the case may be. Tim goes in there every day before practice and asks who needs the attention, who on our team needs us a little bit more today, whether that's somebody that's going through a hard time or somebody that's having a hard time living in line with the team's principles. But they make it a plan, right? They go out onto practice not with the practice plan only, but with a plan to empower the players on their team. And so you have to ask yourself, will you be Tim Tebow, or will you be someone who he's talking about? The next one here is energy suckers. Energy suckers are drains. They pull everybody down with them. Energy givers are fountains. They're uplifting, great to watch, and great to listen to. Bringing the juice is about bringing an aggressive, attacking energy into everything we do. So again, showing up and being frustrated by having to have dry land before practice when you just had softball practice or whatever else you had to do before the ring. Going in with that attitude of being frustrated or annoyed by what the task is, it's so easy to drag everybody down with you. And what type of teammate, friend, person would you be if you did that willingly? If you just accepted that you are not in a great mood and that you just want to go into the rink and be grouchy? Well, what kind of, are you living in line with your, first of all, and most importantly, your own core values? Is that the type of person that you want to be? And second of all, are you living in line with the Kachinas core values and what it means to be Kachinas? So this is an important one for me because, again, we're not always going to feel great. Even before coming on to this session, I've had a hard time getting our kids from school and getting them fed, and they're grouchy and grumpy, and getting them to bed and all of these types of things. And I'm sitting here thinking, how am I going to get myself in the right mentality to share mental performance strategies with these girls? And I just decided to start reading a book that I'm reading called Victory Favors the Fearless by Darren Donnelly. So it's a mental performance book that I'm into right now. And usually I wouldn't read it at this time of day, but I just said to myself that I'll pick it up so that I can change my mentality. I could have came on, I could have been less than who I want to be, but I made a decision to act. And so that's an example of bringing energy, changing your energy so that you can help your team succeed, rather than just thinking about yourself. So signs of success, another way to kind of help you guys implement your core values into your locker rooms, your bench, your off ice. We're talking about, there's talks of adding some of this mental performance work and our core values to the weight room. So these are some ideas, again, that you guys can do on your own as players. You don't need your coaches to do it, though. It would be great to get them on board with these things as well. But these are just pictures that I would make for ASU. So I made quite a few for them with pictures of themselves and different types of mental performance strategies that we were working on at the time. And then I let them decide which ones spoke to them the most and which ones they wanted to hang up, which they would hang in their locker rooms for practices. They would put some on the bench, both for practices and for games. And then having some around wherever they would do their off ice or their weightlifting. Um, so these are great ideas to print out and just put them in a little protective sleeve, carry them around with you, put them in a binder, then whip them out to hang them up. It's important that we remember that we're hanging them up at both games and practices, right? We want to do just as much as we do at practice that we would at a game. That way we're prepared when we get to the opportunity. And so we had here a group of them, or a picture of them celebrating with the we over me. So again, showing that it's not about 22 not getting the goal here and being upset because 27 got it. It's the success of the team is what's important. And the next one is this focus over feel. So feeling nervous, feeling like you're not um, that you're not good enough to play this team or on this team. That's the feelings that we want to override with the focus of, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to stay at the top of my paint. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to track pucks the best I can. I'm going to go out there and communicate with my D when they're below the goal line. All of these types of things that help you control your focus so that you're less worried about the way you're feeling. One shift warrior is a great one for, again, being present and understanding that your whole game is made up of one shift after another, and you can't do one shift before you do the other, and you can't go back and redo a shift. So a one shift warrior means that you are 100% dialed in, focused, and ready for one shift at a time. And if you get onto the bench after a hard shift, maybe that you're not very happy with, a one shift warrior takes a deep breath and says, I'm a one shift warrior, and then focuses on the next shift. And again, this is part of our mentality as Kachinas, is that we have that next shift mentality. Enjoy the pain, you earned it. It pays to be a winner. This one was popular for when it was skating days, or when there was physical endurance that was being tested. This was important for them to feel that the struggle that they put themselves through, the weightlifting, the hard practices, the multiple practices, the long game weekends, this helped them to remember that they have earned all of this, all of the successes that they get. They've earned it all through the hard work that happens at practice. And then last one here is a good one. So what next save? So it doesn't matter if you make the best save of your career or if you let in a puck from the far blue line. It doesn't matter. It's time to move on and make the next save. So these are great reminders of implementing your guys's the Kachina's core values into your everyday, right? So number one, you're going to be memorizing the mission statement and the core values. And then number two, you're going to be repeating them together as a team, coming up with a time to put the creed together, practice it together, be able to say it all in unison. And then you guys can work on putting up some of these signs around your locker room and your bench during practices and games to help you guys stay focused and keep living the message that's been created. So what's next? Basically what I just went over. So the idea is for you each to spend the next few days. It's not going to take you very long if you work hard at it. Individually memorizing our mission statement and core values. Don't forget the definition. So when you get to the core values, it's not just enough to recognize or to say the just the words, right? You want to have the definitions. And then number two, step two, practice reciting your creed as a team before practices. So before you start implementing it into a game, you want to get together as a group and say, the idea might be, tomorrow at practice, you guys show up and say, hey, so by next Tuesday, everybody's going to know the creed individually. So for the next week, practice it individually, and then come back next Tuesday, and everybody has to recite it to the team one at a time, so that everybody's accountable, everybody knows the mission, the creed, and everybody's prepared to start saying it as a group. So then once you get there, you start practicing it in unison before team practices or before team lifts or both. And then ultimately you're going to implement the creed before practices and games. Find the right time where it's as close to the same time always. So whether it's before you go out for on ice warm up, when you're out at off ice warm up, when you're, when you get into the locker room before you start getting dressed, whatever the case may be, then you're creating those signs of success to help reference your core principles daily, hanging them up at games and practices, and ultimately watch your team culture grow and strengthen. So again, maybe take a second to screenshot this or take a picture of the screen. If you're writing it down, these are the steps, the easy steps that kind of take what we've worked on over the last 40 minutes and really start to implement it. Because we can talk till we're blue in the face here, and I know that I have, but it's not going to mean anything if we don't go out and practice it. And anytime that you see me around the rink, or if you want to email me randomly and ask me what the core principles are, I will recite them to you. And if I don't, we'll come up with some type of appropriate consequence for me not living the message. So that's important to me. And I want you guys to know that I wouldn't ask you guys to do anything I haven't done already. So this is important to me. And I hope that you guys have been able to get some value out of this. And I want to allow for the next 20 minutes or so to see if there are any questions. Anything that anybody wants to even just mention, any just overall thoughts or questions about what we talked about today. While you're thinking of any thoughts or questions, I want to just remind you guys that I'm still kind of trying to figure out the best way to reach every team. And so this was a great start for me. And we'll kind of work on getting out to your guys' teams in person as well. But just as a reminder, I also work with people individually with my own side gig. So I'm very happy to talk to you guys about that too. You can email me about that or call me as well. PK Smith, what's the best way to have the next shift mentality? So it's a great question. And again, we have to remind ourselves that it's a practice, right? So we have to practice daily. We're not going to just I'm not going to tell you a secret formula and then you'll be able to go out there and it's going to work the first time. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. It's going to take some time. So really what you want to focus on is after you get onto the bench, after a shift, or if you're a goalie, in between whistles, you want to make sure that you get to a point where you are on the bench and you're taking a deep breath, right? Or you have that second to take a big deep breath in, right? And we don't want to underestimate the power of a deep breath. You really don't want to, trust me. It's just so important to quiet the emotions and to quiet the busyness going on in the back of our heads and really activate that executive functioning that helps us make the next best decision. So when you get onto the bench or in between whistles, you'll take this deep breath in and then you'll let it out nice and slow, and you'll have a mantra, something to say, whether you say I'm a one shift warrior, or maybe it's something that you want to focus on the next shift. Maybe you're having a hard time staying with your point. You want to say to yourself, strong on the point, or strong on your stick, or whatever it is that maybe you're working on, that you have something to focus on, right? And so it's nice and simple, and because it's supposed to be, right? excellence in all things is, or excellence in small things is excellence in all things. So the better we do these little details of the game, the more we're going to soar above all competition. So ultimately, what that looks like again is a deep breath in, and then a mantra, something that helps you, that you've already decided what it is, you've written it down. Maybe you hang it on your stall, you put a piece of tape by your stall and have it written there. Maybe it's written on the inside of your wrist. Maybe it's on your tape, on your stick. Whatever the case may be, somewhere where you're really implementing this new mantra, maybe one or two, that you try to really embody. Any other questions or final thoughts? Of course, PK, you're welcome. So before give a couple minutes for any last minute questions. But just to kind of set you guys up to, I mean, the hardest part is going to be holding other people accountable, and it's going to be hard to hold yourselves accountable as well. Um, but really just trusting each other as a group and building these things together, and being a part of the process together is going to bring you guys only closer, which will help with the confrontations and the calling each other out in a positive way, being able to find out how to live the message the best. These are all things that take practice, right? It's going to take time, and this is a great place to start. And we'll have future presentations that will have additional skill building as well. But take ownership of this piece first and really get to work on it, and see how well you can accomplish it over the next month before we have our next mental performance session. So with that, please feel free to call me or email me if you have any other questions, or any comments about the presentation in general. It has been recorded, so I'll make sure to get it sent out to everybody. Yeah, any questions, anything, just let me know. It was a pleasure, guys. I'm really happy that you guys were all able to be here. So have a good rest of your night and a good rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you around the rink. Happy to stay on for last minute questions too in a smaller group if any of you guys want to unmute yourself and have any questions. Chris, I mean, any final thoughts or anything, or are you just hanging out? All right. See you. Thanks.